Outsourcing tends to have a bad reputation as being low quality. Partner Hero's value-based approach raises the bar for the outsourcing industry by investing in employee empowerment and career growth, paying above-market salaries, and maintaining a focus on quality and performance. They're more than a service provider. They're also a thought partner for the startups they serve. It's simple. Brands that care about quality customer experience choose Partner Hero. They offer flexible terms and the ability to scale quickly, perfect for startups, with quality assurance baked into every program and offices around the world. So Partner Hero can provide truly global coverage. Outsourcing has long been available mainly to big businesses, but Partner Hero is challenging business as usual by bringing the benefits of outsourcing to businesses of all sizes with short, flexible contracts and fast ramp-up times. 10 years ago, when we were launching the Action Catalyst, we could have used a few extra hands to help us scale quickly, even if it was just for a short while. You can bet that with their expertise, fast onboarding, and core focus on quality, Partner Hero would have had our attention. If you're ready to bring in outside customer support help for your startup that feels like it's a part of an existing team, check out Partner Hero. Head over to partnerhero.com/Action Catalyst to book a free consultation with our solutions team. Mention you heard about Partner Hero from the Action Catalyst, and they'll even waive the setup fee. Now, on to the show.
Southwestern Family of Companies welcomes you to the Action Catalyst. Each week, our diversely and amazingly accomplished guests share their insights and inspirations to help us ignite our own. So let's invest attention together to breathe, to reflect and refocus, and decisively defeat that voice we call Mr. Mediocrity. Then let's enjoy moving forward to make a positive difference in our world.
Are you interested in advertising with the Action Catalyst? Our listeners could be hearing about your brand right here, right now. For details, shoot us an email at info@theactioncatalyst.com.
Today we're going to be hearing from Mr. Stan Mabry. Stan is the proprietor of Stanford Fine Art here in Nashville, one of the most respected art dealers in the entire area, in fact, around the country and around the world. Stan and I have known each other since he was a college student. Like so many other successful people in business, he got his start selling books door to door with Southwestern Advantage. Stan is somebody that actually leads a double life. Most of us have seen the Indiana Jones movies, and we see this mild-mannered archaeology professor by day who is a swashbuckling hero by night. Stan is not only highly respected, scholarly, and full of wisdom about art, particularly the American art that he specializes in, but he also is the 7-time world champion of the International Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Federation. I'm not kidding. 7 times world champion. That means working his way through the brackets, defeating all comers, and this most recent championship was at the black belt level, which means you could be working against people that are black belts for 30 years, 35 years. They've been there, they've done it, they've seen it all. And yet again, when the medals were passed out, the World Championship medal went to Stan. He combines the ability to be present and focused in his art dealings and building a tremendous business, and also in this side at which he is the world champion. So we're going to learn a little bit more from him about each of these aspects because they're very germane to anybody that is striving to move toward their goals in life. And that's what this podcast is all about. So, Stan, we're so glad you could join us today. Welcome to the Action Catalyst.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, it's just great. Stan, if you don't mind, with just the shortest autobiography maybe of how you got involved in the art business and how you began to build Stanford Fine Art, which you now have been in charge of for more than 30 years.
Okay. I was an anthropology major in college, went to graduate school in anthropology. Wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with that. Found myself living in New York City, and I ran into Spencer Hayes. I had sold books for a number of summers, and Spencer remembered me from the book field. And Spencer spoke to me about starting an art business. And I remember telling him, Spencer, I know nothing about art. I've never taken an art history course. However, I had gone to Europe with money that I'd saved from selling books and did basically my grand tour. So I knew a little bit, but it wasn't in an academic setting. So Spencer just kind of put that in my head, and we talked about that, and anyway, one thing led to the next, and he was able to set up a job interview at Sotheby's in New York, the auction house, where I worked for just a few years, and then helped Spencer and his wife look for things in the city when they would come to New York. And then Spencer suggested I come to Nashville and start calling on people. And that's what I started doing in 1987 and continue to do till today. So it really came from Spencer's mentorship and just putting the idea about being immersed in art. And it's just been a wonderful life so far.
So it's a great example of how you can take up a new profession and become extremely knowledgeable about it, even when you don't really have a background in that.
Absolutely. It's just, I dated a girl who went to Wellesley College. She was an art history major, and we would go certain places, and she was always astounded that I just remembered certain things. But I think a lot of that came from just being able to focus, like on the book field when you're calling on a family and you're kind of all in that moment, being present in the moment. It was the same way with art. I was just trying to drink it up as much as I could.
Well, I know that many of the people that work with you also are presented with art from several other dealers. Can you share one or two insights on what you think helps you gain loyalty from your clients and your customers, where they...
Well, I'm really conscious on what they're trying to do. If it's just, having beautiful things on their home or trying to build a collection, no matter what level, I see all aspects of it as kind of a, historical perspective, art history angle, or even the investment aspect. So I try to kind of work all those things in with the goals of what the client has in mind. And I try to put things in front of them that I think that they will really enjoy living with, and getting a lot of emotional attachment to a painting, and just waking up and getting other benefits from it. Just the emotional level of just living with beautiful art is a wonderful thing.
So finding out what's important to them and then helping tailor a solution that's going to work really well for them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. And you've kept this business going and growing. Beautiful works of art. They're on display not only here, but you lend pieces to museums and deal with other dealers and all the rest of that. I remember you sharing a story with me once about persistence in the pursuit of a particular piece of art that I think ultimately took 16 years to acquire. And I think for a lot of our listeners, we all want to get things done quickly and tick off the box and make it happen. Can you share just the briefest outlines of that story, and then what you did to kind of keep yourself focused during that very long process?
Well, Architectural Digest did an article on, I think it was an ad that an insurance company promoted for each state, and they chose a painting that my gallery had by Ralph E.W. Earl, who had done a life portrait of Andrew Jackson. And that was the lead-off image in the article. And I sold it fairly quickly, but we got a call from a gentleman who said they had one. He had the name kind of confused, but I just asked him if he could send me a photograph. We got a photograph in the mail, and I called him back and tried to put it together for him. But it was a wonderful painting by Earl of Jackson, the 7th president of the United States. And he didn't want to sell it. He lived in Florida, but we just kind of stayed in touch. I just would follow, every 4 or 5 months, I'd pick up the phone and call him. And so I did that for 16 years. And then he called me once and he said, "Stan, I think it's time for us to talk about the painting." And I had a group from a museum visiting the gallery one week, the following week, and I said, you couldn't have called at a better time. And anyway, I didn't think they were interested in it, but that was enough impetus for him to get it to me. And we sold it in just a matter of days, but I had never met him. So when I finally met him, it was just like an uncle. I hadn't seen in a long time. We were just like old friends, but we just had a phone relationship for a little over 16 years. But they were extremely excited about it, and I actually made another print of the painting with a very similar frame and gave them that. So they really, when they looked in their dining room, it was still there, even though it wasn't original. It was something that they really got a kick out of.
That is a true story of persistence and taking the long view instead of instant gratification, and it worked out well for all concerned. I think that's just dramatic.
It was exciting.
Well, good. And we're delighted for your success in the world of art, and it's going to continue, I know for a fact. I think I'm really, really curious how you got involved in martial arts and fighting. It seems not only for you to be an art dealer who used to study anthropology, but also to move now into being the world champion. That's quite a journey. Can you give some of the steps along the way? And then I'd love to ask you about the things you think about when you're facing a particularly tough opponent, or how you prepare for the tournament, the matches. We'll take it kind of by degrees, though.
Sure. My dad died when I was 7 years old, and my mom always tried to involve me in certain things. And when I was a young boy, she got me involved in judo. So I took judo for a number of years, and then, kind of in junior high school, started playing sports, and got away from the judo. And as an adult, I started dating a woman who had a little boy, and they lived near a dojo that did a certain form of jiu-jitsu. It was more striking and punching, and I was familiar with that a little bit. So I wanted to bond with the little boy. So it's just something we started doing together, and that's really how I got involved in it. And then it led into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which is more of a grappling martial arts, and it combines wrestling, judo, punching. I mean, no punching, but it's just something I truly enjoyed.
That's amazing. Now, in this process, you went from just having a little bit of really old background in judo to honing your skills to the point where you're 7 times world champion. Can you describe a bit about the training disciplines and the amount of time that you, in recent years, have dedicated to your practice?
Well, I've been doing it, and for the last probably 15 years, training at least 5 times a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Sunday afternoon. So I do it pretty religiously, but to excel at anything, you have to put the work in. Everybody wants to be a world champion, or everybody wants to be on the podium, but you truly, I've always felt, if it's truly important to you, you'll do the things that it takes to get the job done. You'll find a way to do it, and training is just part of that equation. So I just put the time in training, trying to be consistent in my job, showing up every day, working hard. And it's the same thing with martial arts, just continuing training, and your technique gets better over time. And it's just an interesting thing. It just helps clarify the mind, and helps you in other aspects of your life too. That's what I found.
Okay, but during these training periods that are between tournaments, and the tournaments, there's bright lights and there's all kinds of spectators, there's lots of adrenaline flowing. What do you do to stay focused on the practice so that you're not just going through the motions, but you're actually getting better? You mentioned your skills get better with time. That's not always true. People can put a lot of time in and not get better. So is there something that you do for self-motivation, self-attitude when you're in a practice session or taking some coaching that actually causes you to progress?
Well, I write down my goals every night for the next day in work. It's the same way with jiu-jitsu. I may not have a tournament for 3 or 4 months away, but I still write down on index card that I want to win that tournament. And I'll see that card in the morning, afternoon, evening. I'll have one at work as well. So that's always mentally preparing myself. I did it on the book field. I'd have a goal each day that I wanted to achieve. And I think it prepares your mind to see that as a reality, and it becomes a reality. Sometimes it doesn't work that day. But I think I kind of go into it, even though I may not have a competition for a few months, I'm still thinking about it down the road. So I write down my goals and just being consistent on what I'm trying to do. And then when it's time to compete, then it's all amped up a little bit in terms of laser focus, just your conscious, subconscious level. You've already got your mind prepared for the competition. So you pared down a lot of the non-essentials. You've just gotten those out of the way. So therefore you can focus a lot harder.
You said a second ago, Stan, that you write down your goals every night for your business for the next day. And you still do that, even though you've been doing this business for more than 30 years. Obviously, you know how to do the business. Why do you keep that routine going? And what do you see as the value of a written goal as opposed to just having a thought of what you want to get done the next day?
Well, I think it just brings to mind there's a lot of things that can happen and does happen every day that can get you off track. So by writing those things down, I know that this is something I need to get back to. That's more important than meeting the electrician or talking to someone about something that really doesn't help me move in that direction. I'll take the time to do all those things, but I know that I had the sense of urgency to get back to what's more important and running the business, going for another, championship. So in that sense, that's why I write them down, because I know it's aimed towards something. It's kind of pared down to the essentials of what needs to be done. Because there's all kinds of things that can happen during the day, and you can get lost in that. So that's why I write it down every night.
So that's sort of like your anchor, your focal point for the next day, so that the distractions don't throw you way off track.
Exactly.
And that's so easy to do, is get distracted. So I think that's very cool. And you use just an index card, right? You're not a real tech person with all the various apps. You just do this.
Well, I've always done it. I just take notes on pieces of paper. And it's just index cards work with me. I every now and then I'll tape them to the dashboard of my car. That reminds me of the book field. I used to do it on the book field, and it's pretty much the same way.
So it's those visual reminders. In fact, somebody once asked a, quote, time management expert, so what's the best system? And the answer was the one you'll use. That's the best system. And you figured out how to do it with those index cards, which I think is great. And Stan, I know you're also a real believer in preparation. You've talked about how you'll write down some goals, even if it's 3 or 4 months before a match, in preparation. As you start getting closer to the match and you start thinking about the competition itself, what are some of the things that you do? And I'm going to ask you various categories of questions, but what's something you do that causes you to gradually move towards your peak and not push so hard early on that maybe you peak too early before the competition?
Well, in competition, it's a certain weight class. I mean, if you medal, you can qualify to fight in the open weight, which you can fight some really big guys. So you have to physically keep your weight at a certain level. So you're watching what you're eating, and you're training real hard, and you have to be conscious not to get injured. You always get banged up. It's just part of the nature of the sport. A lot of people are injured to a degree, but you have to just have the frame of mind not to go out there and fight a white belt who's kind of going for your throat. You just, if he's going to pass your guard or something in class, I don't get any medals in class, so I don't mind doing that. It's when the competition comes, that's when you're all in. I think mentally, I try to prepare myself. Like you said, I write down my goals. I study film footage of my competition, any matches that I've seen them fight. In this sport, the longer you've done it, you realize that certain guys are really good at a certain way they fight. So you have to be conscious of how to beat their game. If they get to the pull or fight on top, it just nuances of the game. You have to figure out how to fight that. So I study film footage, and I try to just, when the actual tournament comes around, we fight in Las Vegas, Irvine, California, New York, just all kinds of different places. But I try to go to the venue the day before, so I kind of get a mental picture where I'm going to change clothes, what mat I'm going to fight on, where I'm going to stand on the mat, the warm-up area, the bathrooms. I do all that. So there's no questions in my mind that when I go there, I'm 100% dedicated for the reason I'm there is to win. So I try to, I mean, a lot of this was related to the book field. It's probably not to that degree, but I think not too far off. I'm just focused in on the purpose I'm there for, but I have to be conditioned to do it. And my intentness has to be there. And I have to have the adaptability to change if something doesn't go the way I want it to. So you have to be able to bounce off if someone gets to their game before you do, how to respond to that as well. So you can't be so locked into a way that you're not open to having another vision about something. You still have that same directness and confidence about what you want to do, but you have to have that adaptability.
Got it. So you're a real believer in proper preparation, including going to the venue ahead of time, looking it out, scoping everything so there's no uncertainty the next day. And you find that builds your confidence, that extra bit of preparation?
Well, it's the proper focus and proper dedication. And once you do that, I think you can be, have certain competitiveness, greatness about you, because you're there for a reason and you've prepared yourself. Doesn't necessarily mean that you'll win. But there's an old quote that said that the victory is reserved for those willing to pay its price. And there is a price. It can be mentally and physically, but you'll have a moral victory regardless, even if you don't come out on top.
I guess it goes back to the old saying of control your controllables and try not to worry too much about the results. They'll fall where they may.
Exactly.
That's great. Now, what about coping with fear? Stan, we all fear different things. And in business, we fear that we are not going to hit our targets, or we're not going to be able to make our business a success, or maybe we've got just a massively stronger, better funded competitor, and we're just not sure how we're going to get there. Can you share an example or two of a time when perhaps you looked at an opponent or a series of opponents and it was pretty scary, pretty daunting, and how you dealt with that in terms of your self-motivation, your self-talk, so that you could get through them one by one?
Well, the first BJJ tournament I went, there was a guy that had the alphabet tattooed on his back, the whole alphabet. And I was thinking, my goodness, that's a little different, because I usually wear a sport coat when I go to these events, and people usually, I'm pretty recognizable. Everybody else is dressed a little bit different. But some of the guys are pretty tough looking. They're really, really built strong. Just, it's amazing. And, you really have to just focus on your game. That's what you do. That's what you're here for. You've put the time in. You've prepared yourself properly and you're ready to, you've given all the effort to win. You may not win, but you've given the effort to win. And it's just like in my business, some months are better than other months. And I know if I'm consistent in my efforts that it may not come this month, but it may come in next month. And when I was much younger, I used to get all emotionally out of whack because, I didn't have a good month. But now I take a bigger perspective now, a longer view. I still do the same sorts of things. I'm still consistent in my efforts to have a good month, to win a tournament. It may not always turn out the way I want it to, but I know over the long haul, I've given everything that I could to come out on top or to have a good month. And that's all we can ask for. I think Zig Ziglar said, winning's not everything, but the effort to win is. And that's really true.
That's a fantastic thought. Yeah, it is completely true. Now, you shifted gears when you moved into the black belt division. Again, these are people that had huge amount of experience. They had done so many things. Many of them had been black belts for a lot longer than you had been. Were there any particular changes that you felt you needed to make in this level of competition compared to the other ones before?
The issue is that these guys have been doing it for so long, so you're not going to catch somebody in just a triangle choke or arm bar or wrist lock or ankle lock. I mean, they've been there hundreds of thousands of times. My first match, the guy, I mean, he pulled, which meant he got to his game first. That's what he did. When I fought him, he let me do whatever. And I thought you were going to do this. And it kind of threw me mentally off, but I went to my game and I won. Well, he posted something that he had my hand raised on his Facebook page that I was his biggest motivation. So I was going to fight him again later that year. And I thought, oh my goodness, he's really targeted me, but I beat him again for my 7th world championship. And I think you just focus on your game, the things that you do really well, and just try to eliminate the things that aren't important. Once I used to talk about the energy pie and the things that take your energy, and you just try to eliminate the things that don't really help you achieve your goals. And then you put time into the ones that do. First, God, your family, your work, Jiu Jitsu. That's kind of my energy pie. And then all the other things are peripheral. Some have value, some have not, but just all the things that take your energy away each day. And if you just kind of focus on the things that are important and kind of they'll help you work closer to your goals.
So that's really a principle of just concentration of focus on the top priorities. And to do that, first you got to know what those are. And clearly you do. So your energy pie, I guess this is based on the fact that if we imagine all of our minutes or hours in a day, we've all got a 24-hour pie. But how we choose to concentrate it determines whether we actually move forward or we just get caught up in all the trivia.
Sure. And just at black belt, the skill level, I mean, it can be amazing. So sometimes you win a match just on a slight advantage. You're not going to really catch anybody in submission always. Sometimes you do, but you just have to be mentally prepared for that fight. And that's what makes it just a fascinating sport. I just really love it, and it really clears the mind on a daily, weekly thing when you don't have a competition coming up. But when competition season comes around, then you just kind of lock it in at a different level.
Right, I got that. How do you keep yourself from just feeling complacent? Being in the art business for 31 years, 7 consecutive world championships. How do you avoid that feeling that is sometimes called satisfied-itis and cause yourself to keep growing and keep striving?
Well, those are just very brief moments that I feel. I don't really feel like I've arrived or satisfied in anything. I just kind of keep going. I mean, a lot of times I may not feel like training during the week, but those are the times that I've realized that's when I need to go. I want to stay home, do something else. No, I'll go train. I've just mentally catch myself because the mind will do certain things if you allow it to. So you have to train your mind. So your daily actions must match your goals. So if I want to be a world champion, I can't just come home and eat a pint of, chocolate ice cream. Or I want to do well in work. I can't go to work and not get on the telephone and call clients or make prospective calls, text clients or whatever. So my daily actions must meet those goals. So I try to just constantly, like I said, things happen during the day, might throw you off, but I get back centered to what I'm there for. And that's just kind of who I am.
Well, I think that's awesome. So letting your activity be dictated by your goals and having a real clarity about the goals, and then the discipline to actually do the things that relate to hitting that goal and not letting yourself get distracted, even though you might really like chocolate ice cream. I think that's awesome. Stan, what would you advise some of our listeners that are really struggling to center on their focus? In other words, they've got so many things they're trying to get done all at once, starting a business or building a business. How do you determine what to work on first? What are some things?
Well, first of all, I think the reason I'm have this business is because I was part of a team. Spencer was a mentor to me for my whole adult life. So I have tremendous respect for the time and energy he gave to me. So I think being part of something, it can be a small team, it can be a bigger team, but you have people that are around you that want you to achieve and want you to reach the goals that you set for yourself. And those people will help you get there. I train with people every week. I have a coach who puts his time and energy into me, and we game plan, and he works with me on an individual basis to do well at these tournaments. I know that, even though I'm the only one standing on the podium, I realize that it's a team effort. It's the same thing in business. They may not be in-house under the same roof, but I'm a part of something. So I think listening to people that are important to you, following what they suggest. Sometimes it's not things that you want to follow, but sometimes they have a better perspective because they've seen it before. They know what can happen. They know the struggles that people face. And if you just continue to seek wisdom in that place, I think it will allow you to move closer to your goals. I think when feel like you're all alone, I think that can be a difficult challenge. That's why inspirational reading. I'm not a big reader, but I do believe in reading quotes, and I like little snippets of information. I like the essence of something, and I try to, kind of squeeze that as much as I can and follow my life that way. But I believe in listening to other people, seek their guidance and wisdom, and looking at your own life and your energy pile, what's taking up your energy, and eliminating things that aren't really helping you move towards what you ultimately want to do. I mean, they can be just activities, they can be certain friends, or just things that are just, you're not utilizing your time. So I think if you just analyze your energy pile and run that by a mentor, someone that you trust and has wants the best for you, I think you'll come up with a better energy and focus and allow you to see a bigger picture. It may not come today. It may not come in 6 months, but ultimately it will. If you just keep moving towards those goals, just write them down. I think that's so important. You write them down. You speak them out loud. You hear them. You see it with your eyes. It just it's building so many different levels in your brain that will ultimately happen. And that's one of the reasons I think I've done exceptionally well in competition, is because I won't accept any other outcome. And if it does, it happens. But I think in losing, in setbacks, you always learn tremendous amounts. One of my first competitions, I was winning 7-0, and I was caught in a situation. I felt somebody doing something on my hair, and I thought, what's going on there? And I raised up, and I got caught in an arm bar with like 15 seconds. It wasn't a world. It was a major tournament, though. But I learned so much just in that little instance by losing. So I think sometimes there's setbacks, and they're good setbacks because you can learn a lot from a setback. So hopefully that answered a little bit of that question.
Well, it completely does. In fact, you covered several different dimensions. One was the importance of humility. You said you may be the only one standing on the podium, but there were other people involved in it. The idea of seeking out mentors, listening to their advice, and realizing we don't know everything and other people can help us. Figuring out the focus pie and having somebody critique that and remind you, is this really consistent with your goals in life? And the fact that even in setbacks, there are lessons that we can learn from and become stronger. You said a great deal, my friend, in just a few words. And we really appreciate that. Stan, I can't even believe how fast this has gone. Now, I know this is much longer than your normal match. I think you said often the length of a match when you're in a final is about 15 seconds and the other person submits. So we're grateful that you put this amount of time into it with us. Just in closing, could you share one or two of the slogans or quotations that you...
Two kinds of people. One finds a way, the other one finds an excuse. So I think that's probably one of the ones that I've really enjoyed over time. I remember that one from the book field. And then I cannot be intimidated. I'll find a way to achieve my goals. I go over, under, around, or right through any obstacle that stands in my way.
That is a powerful, powerful quote. There are two kinds of people in the world. One finds a way and one finds an excuse. I feel the mentorship of Spencer Hayes. I hear it.
Yeah. I'm looking at him right now. I am committed to achieving my goals. I try and keep on trying. I never give up. I constantly renew my commitment.
These are brilliant, Stan Mabry. Thank you so much for taking time out of your art world and sharing some of the insights in your fabulous mind, how you concentrate, how you move forward. It is a real privilege and a pleasure on the Action Catalyst to have a world champion, 7 times world champion, and all-around tremendous human, very, very nice person as well. So we thank you on behalf of all of our listeners today. Stan Mabry, we appreciate you being part of the Action Catalyst.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate being here.
If you enjoy this podcast, please make sure to subscribe. To stay updated on everything that the Action Catalyst is up to, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Action Catalyst Podcast and Twitter at Catalyst_Action. Thanks for listening.